Hello, Sam.
Hey Bob, how you doing?
Doing all right. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so excited today because we're going to talk about Spirit Guardians.
Well, I'm excited about that too.
Oh, what a
Uh,
surprise.
what So, what are your thoughts on Spirit Guardians?
Spirit Guardians is a spell that I think it's overhyped a little bit. I think there are some people that like look at it and are like, "Oh my god, it's so good. I always take Spirit Guardians. You should have it on every single character." It's good. It's good, definitely. It's middle of the road to me. This is a spell that has its very clear windows where it'll be awesome. You'll be running into the hordes of Lemure that are crawling out of hell, and they'll just be shredded to pieces by your ancestors around you. It's super sweet. Other times we'll be like, wow, this is unusable. I physically can't cast this spell right now. And that's just kind of how it goes. And that's honestly what I kind of want out of a lot of the spells in the game. I want them to be really great sometimes, and you feel super cool using them, but also like give moments where they're not you can't always fall back on it. That's where I find Spirit Guardians lands pretty
All
comfortable.
right, and instead of what seems rational, let's go backwards. And when
Yep.
what are those instances where you might not want to use this, or it won't
So
be usable? Like,
this is to sort of talk about when you can and can't use this. It comes along a lot down to your party composition, believe it or not. A lot of games are going to be shaped. The encounters in the game are going to be shaped by how your party sort of functions together. A lot of parties are going to have a frontline paladin and barbarian fighter, something like that. You're going to have a mid-rangey ranger or cleric or monk that's sort of like the in-between of the big bulky and the ranged casters in the back. And then you have
mhm.
your warlocks, your rogues, your people that don't want to get hit at all. And you have a kind of those three-tier systems. If you have a good composition of those, you're probably going to find some mileage out of the spell. If you have a lot of just the frontline beefiness, if it's like you're the cleric, you have a barbarian, paladin, and monk in the group, you're going to find the spell slaps. And if you are in a group that's predominantly just like you got a warlock, a rogue, a ranger that are all firing from 5 miles away, this spell is going to very rarely. I mean, encounters that are built around this group are going to very rarely want Spirit Guardians because Spirit Guardians is at its best whenever you are at fisticuffs with other melee combatants, and there's a
Sure.
reasonable amount of them, right? If you can consistently get 3 or 4 enemies in your Spirit Guardians at a given time, those encounters, you're going to get a lot of mileage out of it, especially if you can get at least 3 rounds out. If you can get 3 rounds of Spirit Guardians like that, it's out damaging Fireball, which is a big milestone to hit. 3 rounds is a lot, granted, but it can be of that power level in those encounters, which is great. In encounters where your rogue is dueling with the opposing team's rogue from 3 miles away,
Mhm.
your wizard's been counterspelling and keeping specific tabs on where everyone else is. Your job then as the cleric probably to patch people up, give some protection magic, and fire out guiding bolts more than it's going to be realistically sitting down and fighting the other 12 melee combatants. Granted, there will
Well,
be some
yeah. Well,
encounters. Go for it.
I know. I was just thinking in the scenario you were painting, I didn't think there were any melee combatants. I thought
Exactly.
he'd just be running from, try to run toward the rogue and the magic missile slinging wizard or whatever. But yeah, I could see that being not ideal.
Yeah, it's nice that because it's self on you, you can do some neat things to make it better, and you can find more instances where you can make it really work well. If you have a dedicated wizard or other buddy with Dimension Door, you can do fun things where they like just teleport you into the middle of the enemy backline, and you just Spear Guardians them all to death. That's a pretty fun thing to do. It has some neat applications as far as because you can selectively pick who is in it and not, you don't really care about being in the thick of things with your buddies, and it kind of encourages the cleric to position a little bit more forward, which I always find is interesting. Um, it's all around really neat, and again, because there's those clear situations where, well, obviously we're not going to be in melee combat here. This spell does it's useless. I'm never getting in range of them because if I run through that's a no man's land. I get obliterated by fireballs. Well, there'll be other situations where it'd be like, oh, that's 16 whites running at us. Spear Guardians is going up, and we're murdering them all. That's the windows, right? That's where it's good and where it's bad.
Now, you talked about teleporting. That sounds like fun, but I would think it might be able to pair well with haste for similar
Hasty,
reasons.
yeah. Anything that gets you moving, anything that changes your positions to more interesting locations. Because
Mm.
this, you can kind of become like a build your own fireball, if you will, where as long
Mhm.
as you can get to the space, you can then do damage where you'd like to. And the best part is it comes with you, so you can move that around, and you're your own sort of flaming sphere. You're your own sort of area of effect damaging spell.
Right, right.
And the more you empower it, the more you can kind of get out of it. It's really neat if you like a weird monk multi-class. You can have the monk jump speed and flying all over the place, with Spear Guardians, just shredding things around you. That's a fun little build you can try out. You also get some neat flavor with, monks with their ancestral spirits and all of the other different directions you can take it. You can just be like the warlock, because warlocks get stuff like Misty Step. If you go cleric warlock and you do like some weird hell cleric, you can just have demons of hell writhing flames around you as you teleport around with your great axe and kill stuff. Like, there's a bunch of different cool looks for it, and there are builds that weaponize it, so you're your own sort of giant moving sphere of death.
Yeah, if you want to base your build around that. I found it funny though. It is exclusive to the cleric class. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah, which is weird. This should be a paladin spell. I would actually argue this should be a paladin spell before it's a cleric spell, because that's paladin's whole shtick. Their whole
right. It sounds paladin-y.
Yeah, having a bunch of damage around you. All of their gimmicks, their auras, their spells are predominantly built around giving you areas of control and being sort of this figurehead in the center of melee combat. It excluded from their list is baffling to me.
Well, you're talking about game mechanics wise. I was just talking about the aesthetic, the spirits of your ancestors flying around you. That really feels like a paladin kind of thing.
Agreed. To go down with the honor and glory of your past your past warriors, that seems very paladin-y, and it's just not on their list for some reason. It's one of those omissions that I just kind of turn my head and go, what? That? Like, why did that happen this way? I don't know. This Sam's opinion, this should just be a second level paladin spell, because then paladins have a powerful thing to do with their second level spell slots, and it's a cool thing to do too, and it'll make them feel a lot better about getting it when they get it. But I mean, it's neither, really cool. So. Yeah, it is. I've built more than one character with this spell specifically in mind as something that I wanted to include to make sure like you have the feeling of this sort of empowered vessel of your ancestors, vessel of the ancients, vessel of gods or whatever. It really sells that fantasy, especially because of a lot of the text in it. This is definitely one of the early spells in development because it still has the walls of text that are just flavor. It's great in like, yeah, if you're evil, they're demons and evil shadowy figures. If you're good, they're celestial radiant angels. It's cool. It's like spiritual weapon a lot in that way, where you can kind of customize and pick your own flavor within the description of the spell, which naturally just makes people more creative with it. It makes you more inspired to go in and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this cool weird thing. Maybe you're the Dragonborn and like the ancestral things around you are just ancient dragon moths firing off blue lightning or whatever. Like you can take and run with it however you want, and it looks cool regardless how you do it.
Let's see. Have we covered everything? How do you find this? How do you find this compares between small creatures and large creatures?
Oh, this will definitely be something you want to deal with masses. This is the kind of thing where if you're fighting one big thing, very likely it's got multi-attack and very likely it's going to be up in the thick of it. It's going to have a lot worse of a time in mono situations. You're probably going to drop concentration quickly, and 3d8 damage is good, but you'd much rather have that damage be front loaded into a single action with something like Fireball if you're fighting those kinds of things, than have it attempt to go over multiple rounds, especially when you anticipate being hit. If you're not going to get hit, it's good regardless, but if you are going to get hit, it's a lot worse against big things. And again, if you're against lots of little things, which tends to be how little things are run, like swarms of bats, goblins, kobolds, zombies, you're fighting masses of them, this just eviscerates them. The damage is multiplicative, right? So
that can be very satisfying as well, just charging into a crowd of little critters and they're exploding before you. None of them can land a hit on you because to break your concentration. Fun times. I'm just finishing a game that I've been running for a while. It's a zombie themed game, big apocalypse setting. And our cleric picked this up because they capped out at 5th level. It was a relatively short run. And there was a big final encounter at a cemetery, right? And there were just mobs of zombies. And I knew I can send literally infinite at him, and he will just murder them all with Spear Guardians, and he'll feel like the coolest player ever. Because all of these zombies with 6 hit points just run in and get eviscerated by the radiant damage. And then you just put that on in the background, basically. That's just the environment doing its thing. And then you have the bigger bad, which was an undead angel, causing more problems. But it was just, you have this really neat set piece. You got to feel like a badass. You have the zombies and little guys running around, you just getting murdered by these celestial ancients. It was pretty cool. It's a pretty sweet spell. That sounds fun.
Oh, it was awesome.
All right. What is the SAM rating for this spell?
SAM rating for the spell out of 5. I don't know. It's fine. It's definitely not as busted as a lot of people think. This is a middle of the road spell for me. This is something I'm happy to take. You can definitely build characters around it. It's not breaking anyone's game. It's not putting out the best numbers ever. They're not going to be every situation where you're going to be able to use it. Every encounter isn't going to be able to be like, oh yeah, this is good here. I give it a solid 3 out of 5. It's fine. It's great.
All right, that'll do. That's Spirit Guardians. Thank you for coming on.
Anytime, Bob. Can't wait to do this again.
All right, I can't either. Goodbye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description where you'll find my Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, our full review of the spell, and other fun things.